Let's be honest, having a difficult conversation is probably one of the most stressful things you have to do as a leader. But it's also, without a doubt, one of the most important skills for protecting your team's culture and, actually holding people accountable. We all know avoiding these talks just doesn't work. So in this explainer, we're going to break down a super simple framework to help you handle them with way more confidence.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? You see an issue, you know you need to deal with it, but then that little voice in your head kicks in, that feeling of dread, and you just hope, you pray it'll somehow fix itself. But here's the thing about workplace problems. They almost never just vanish. In fact, they usually get bigger.
And that's exactly why mastering these conversations is a total game changer. Our goal here is to give you a clear, straightforward framework so you can walk into that room feeling confident, ready to be direct, calm, and totally focused on finding a solution.
Okay, so before we even get into what to say, we have to start with how to think about it. Seriously, the most important step happens in your own head. It's all about reframing the entire purpose of the conversation before you even open your mouth.
This right here is the biggest mindset shift you can make. A tough conversation is not a punishment. It's not about wagging your finger. See, when you go in focused only on a past mistake, all you do is create fear. But if you approach it as a coaching opportunity, where the focus is on future success, well, that builds trust. It stops being about who's right and who's wrong, and it starts being about what's right for the business and the team. All right, so you've got the mindset right. Now you need the practical toolkit. To make these conversations structured and, actually effective, we're going to use a simple, really memorable 4-step framework. But first, and this is so important, let's talk prep. You never, ever want to walk into one of these conversations cold. You've got to know your facts and have specific, observable examples ready to go. Decide what you actually want the outcome to be, and for the love of all that is holy, pick a private place where you won't be interrupted. Trying to do this on the fly in the middle of a busy area is just a recipe for disaster.
Okay, here it is, the SIEN framework. It stands for Situation, Impact, Expectation, and Next Steps. Think of this as your roadmap. It's going to keep the conversation on track and productive, not spiraling out of control.
So let's break it down. First up, S is for situation. You start by describing the specific, observable behavior. So instead of something vague like, you're being unreliable, you state the facts. Last week, 3 team members called out without proper notice. See the difference? This isn't about judging their character, it's about a specific action. No one can argue with the facts.
Next, I is for impact. This is where you connect the dots for them. How did that situation actually affect everything else? This caused scheduling gaps and really frustrated the rest of the team. This step is absolutely crucial because it makes the issue real. It shows them why it matters to the bigger picture. It's not just about breaking a rule, it's about the very real effect on the team.
Then we get to E for expectation. This is where you remove any and all ambiguity. You're not asking, you're not suggesting, you are calmly and clearly stating the standard that needs to be met. For example, moving forward, all leaders must follow the call-out procedure to ensure we always have coverage. Crystal clear.
And finally, N is for next steps. This is how you close the loop. You answer that all-important question, so, what happens now? This could be an agreement on a new plan, or it could be a clarification of a consequence. The goal is to leave that room with a totally shared understanding of the path forward. No surprises.
Now, the SIEN framework is an amazing tool for speaking, but it's only half the equation. This quote nails the other half. This is not a monologue. A huge part of a successful conversation is making the other person actually feel heard. Honestly, sometimes the real issue is rooted in something you don't even know about yet.
And the best way to do that? With open-ended, engaging questions. Instead of just talking at them, you're bringing them into the problem-solving process. Asking something like, from your perspective, what do you think caused this, can reveal things you never even considered. It just totally shifts the dynamic from a confrontation to a collaboration.
So, you did it. You had the conversation, it went well, awesome. But, and you knew there was a but, the work isn't done. The final piece of this puzzle is making sure the change actually happens and, sticks around for the long haul.
This part is super simple, but it is absolutely non-negotiable. First, document it. Just a brief record of the date, what you talked about, and what you agreed on. Second, follow up. A quick, casual check-in a week or 2 later shows you're serious and that you're invested in their success. And third, doing this ensures accountability.
It protects you, it protects the business, and it gives you a clear record if things unfortunately escalate down the road.
And look, this framework is incredibly versatile. As you can see here, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with a leader ignoring standards, or a conflict between team members, or even performance issues. The core principles apply across the board. The specific approach might change a little, but that foundation of prep, structure, and follow-up, that always stays the same.
So let's bring this all together. When you shift your mindset and use a structured approach like this, these conversations really do transform. They go from being something you dread to just a manageable and, honestly, a productive part of your job. And if you remember one thing, remember this. It's not personal. It's about your responsibility as a leader to uphold the standards that create a fair, productive environment for your entire team. When one person's behavior starts to impact the group, addressing it is actually the kindest thing you can do for everyone else.
And just like any other skill, you get better with practice. I promise. The first few times might feel a little clunky or scripted, but the more you lean into these conversations using this framework, the more natural it's going to become. They stop being difficult, and they just become conversations.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Think about that one conversation you've been putting off. You know the one. Now, with this mindset shift and this framework in your back pocket, how can you approach it differently? What's one conversation you can now step into with a whole new sense of clarity and confidence?